Yeah, we're going to be reacting to Ibrahim Traoré and Botswana's president, Dumaboko. Some interesting stuff is going on right now in the world, and it's beautiful to watch because I think Africans are finally catching on. We're finally catching on to this game. We're finally understanding that in order for us to participate in building our nations, we have to get rid of the tentacles of neocolonialism, or else this thing will just follow us forever, and we'll forever be talking about foreign investments, foreign markets, and creating employment for blacks to continue working for white people, which I thought we moved away from slavery. Or at least I thought we don't want to be slaves anymore, but evidently there are still people talking about creating jobs. This thing is deeper than creating jobs. We're not trying to create jobs. We want ownership. There are not enough sectors to take care of our people. And unless we have ownership of these sectors, we will forever be slaves to white capital. So I say again, we need to make sure that we're fighting the right fight. The fight is not for employment. Speaking specifically with what's going on in South Africa. We're not trying to create employment here. We're trying to own the sectors, because once we own our sectors, then the employment issue will be taken care of. But as long as we don't control the means of production in our own country, we can forget. We can forget about, any form of sovereignty ever. We'll forever be slaves to white capital. We'll forever work for them, which is what they want. So they talk about let's improve the economy, let's have economic growth. No, we're not falling for this nonsense. We're not falling for these traps. We don't want economic growth. Eventually, yes. But primarily what we need right now is to have ownership and to control the means of production in our own country, or else we're nothing more than slaves that have just been given a higher status through employment. But essentially and effectively, you still work for white capital. That's not where we want to find ourselves, guys. That's not where we want to be. All right? We need to be in charge of our own countries. And I want to play this video so we can hear how, President Dumaboko, he met up with Traoré recently. And you can tell that Dumaboko gets it, because he's saying, guys, anyway, let me play it. Listen to what the man says. You hear it for yourselves. It's going to be a long stream, by the way, so yeah, get ready.
Any comparisons with Paul Kagame, my good friend Ibrahim Traoré, and I say, some of these folks are operating in a slightly different environment, where their word is obeyed instantly, without question. It's a different environment. You say, this guy is not doing things. Traoré is doing them. Traoré wakes up, dreams them up. Following morning, he makes a pronouncement. It is law. It is policy. Action follows.
Ironically, when Donald Trump does that, it's called good leadership. I mean, how many executive orders did that man sign in a matter of days? Everybody said, yo, decisiveness, it's good leadership. He's making decisions. He's effecting change. Everybody was praising him for it. When anybody else does it that's not white or that's not bought by white capital, you're called a dictator. You're called oppressive. They say you're taking away people's freedom. But here's Donald Trump signing executive orders daily. Nobody questions whether this is a dictatorship. Instead, they call it patriotic. They call it strong leadership. Not afraid to make decisions. But anybody that's white cannot do that, though, because then it's labeled a dictatorship. Interesting, don't you think?
And I wake up and I say stuff, they look at me and say, what is this? What is this man talking about? We need to take it through this stage and that stage and put it to tender, float the tender. It takes 2 years, then we evaluate, then there are complaints, and there's an interdict. We wait another 4 years. By that time, you have to go and account.
Duma Boko is describing democracy. In the last video, I read some definitions to help you understand that democracy is what the colonialists install in your country, right, to keep the status quo the way that they have left it. Remember, they leave your country with the advantage. Or let me put it like this, they end colonialism with the advantage. They don't want you coming around changing anything. So they install their own leaders to run your government. They install their own constitution, their own policies to make sure you do not veer too far away from where they want you. Because what they want from you is for you to maintain the relationship where you allow them to have control of the land, minerals, resources, everything, to control everything remotely, basically. And what Duma is describing here is something you realize that this man has only been president since last year, but he's already woken up to the fact that, like, he's giving you examples. He tries to make decisions, and everybody's looking at him like, I know that's not going to happen. It has to first go through this and that and that and that other process, which is bureaucracy. Democracy is famous for bureaucracy. Nothing gets done because everything has to go through a quote unquote process. The aim of the process is to frustrate actual progress. The aim of the process is to frustrate real progress. That's a quote. So with democracy, with bureaucracy, they want to send you around through so many different channels until you give up because nothing actually gets done. Like Duma Bog is telling you, it takes 2 years just to implement a change. But Ibrahim Traoré, he wakes up and things happen. That's the kind of situation that we want for ourselves. He wakes up, things happen. You see that? That's where we want to be in life. We want to wake up, make decisions that are beneficial for the people in the country. Effective, quickly. Not this thing of it going through 10 different channels. And while it's going through all of these channels, your colonizer gets to find out what you're planning to do. And he can veto. You can get somebody to say, no, we can't go forward with this thing. Then your leaders actually the real people that are trying to make change have no opportunity to affect those changes.
To the people and they remove you. Those who came before me did not fail because they didn't have ideas. They did. Maybe even better ideas. They just didn't implement them. Why? Because perhaps they failed to appreciate that the structures that are in place are not properly suited to the attainment of quick action.
I hope you're listening very carefully. He said the structures that are in place are not suitable to attain quick action. In other words, it's deliberately been set up, right? The neocolonialist system of democracy is set up to take forever for change to be implemented. It's by design. It's what your colonizer has set up. In their absence, in absentia, they've set up a puppet government with a bureaucratic system that delays progress for the people. so that nothing actually changes, because it becomes such a labored process that eventually you give up and nothing gets done.
So you need to subvert some of these rules and processes unapologetically. And I will do it.
See, that's that type of energy we need right there. This man is telling you sometimes you need to subvert, you need to go against these, or go through the red tape, right? Come hell or high water, you need to find a way through so that you can do what you actually want to do for your people, because the system is there to try to prevent you from doing that very thing. Thank you, Duma. Danko.
From this shocking and unexpected speech, it is clear now that Botswana's newly elected president, Duma Boko, has ignited a firestorm with a speech that challenges the sacred cow of democracy itself. Speaking with unapologetic candor, Boko has joined Burkina Faso's revolutionary leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, in declaring that democracy, far from being Africa's salvation, is a shackle delaying progress. His words, delivered with the conviction of a man who has seen the system's underbelly, have stunned observers, sparked fierce debate, and raised a critical question. Is Africa's obsession with Western-style democracy a trap set by neo-colonial powers to keep the continent subdued? As a Pan-Africanist journalist, I assert that Boko's comments, inspired by Traoré's unyielding revolutionary vision, mark a turning point, a clarion call for African leaders to break free from the chains of a system that has enriched puppets while impoverishing the masses. Boko's remarks come hot on the heels of equally incendiary comments from Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the 36-year-old revolutionary leader of Burkina Faso, who has become a symbol of defiance against Western hegemony in Africa. Just weeks ago, Traoré addressed his people in a televised speech, unequivocally rejecting democracy as a pathway to development.
As you can see, we Africans are beginning to realize that democracy is actually standing in our way. What's interesting to me is why we never reference our civilizations pre-colonialism, because we had civilizations before white people arrived in Africa. We had a way of life. We had a way of doing things. But for some reason, we have this obsession with trying to adopt Western ways and incorporate our culture into these Western precepts, which doesn't work. You have to choose a side. It's either you're a part of a colonial system and that you respect the structures and systems put in place by your colonial master, or you want to chart your own path in life and live according to your African civilizations and systems and structures that predate the colonial era. So I'm appealing to you, South Africans, you need to make a choice. We cannot continue on with this Western system. I know a lot of you want to continue because you enjoy being house Negroes. You love the validation of white people. You love to work under a white man. You enjoy it because you feel safe in that place, in that environment where you have a white boss, big company, calling the shots, telling you what to do, giving you a program to follow. You don't want to think for yourself. You want to use your expertise and brilliance to continue to serve a colonial master that's only increasing the wealth gap. As we've seen in South Africa, white people have become richer since apartheid, more so than during apartheid. Black people have become poorer. So you tell me, what is democracy achieving for us as a nation?
We are not in a democracy, we are in a revolution, Traoré proclaimed. If we have to say it loud and clear here, we are not in a democracy, we are in a popular progressive revolution. Everyone needs to understand this. It's even more surprising that those who are supposed to be intellectuals, who have been to school, can imagine that a country can develop in democracy. That's false. It's not possible to name a single country that has developed in democracy. Democracy is only the end result. We must necessarily go through a revolution. And
I hope you caught what he said there, that democracy is the end result. So when colonialism comes to an end, democracy is installed, guys. Why? Because democracy stops progress. You cannot progress under democracy. Things can only get worse for you. Things only get worse. If you want to see real progress, you need to install a system that allows for wealth to be shared and for your leader to be allowed to make decisions and effect change in your land. This thing of democracy is also a farce because votes can be bought. You can buy voters, you can buy votes, you can rig elections. So you're very naive if you think everything is cut and dry and going according to the letter of the law. That's not what's happening. The illusion has been created for you since an early age that you are free, when in actuality, you guys are still living under colonialism. You guys are still slaves. They've just rebranded things and given things nice names to make you feel more important. But the reality is that you are still under slavery.
And we are indeed in a revolution. Traoré's words, delivered with the fiery conviction of a man who has expelled French troops from his soil and
I wish there was an easier way to go about this thing, guys, but you don't, nobody gives you your freedom. You obtain it, Anton, and you obtain it through a revolution. And that revolution has to be violent, right? This is when men come into the picture. Military conscription is a matter of life and death. It should never be an option to defend your land, because if you don't have security, it doesn't matter how much you develop, anybody can just come and destroy everything you're building. So what is the point then of developing if you don't have the means to protect what you have? We need men, real men of war, of battle, to come back. And I'm not just talking wild and out of control. I'm talking disciplined, organized, structured. We must start creating these structures ourselves. We got to make these things happen for our people, or else we don't stand a chance in the future. Our youth are going to continue to be drunken and high while the country falls apart, while the unemployment crisis is exacerbated because it's being created. White capital wants us to look to them as the solution, to say, white people, save us from unemployment. Please bring foreign investors. Let's make the markets happy, which is that's neocolonialism. You are not free when you keep hearing your leaders talking about, let's keep the investors happy. The best chance we have to solve the unemployment crisis is through foreign investors, direct foreign investment. No, we don't need foreign investment. We have enough resources and minerals in the land to not need assistance. The fact that those people have money to invest in Africa is because they've been stealing and looting since the colonial era until today from our land and our resources. So don't come and tell me that we need direct foreign investment. No, where are they getting the money to be able to invest this? Right? That's the legacy of colonialism. And we've got to cut that supply. We've got to turn off the tap, allowing them to have access to our resources, minerals, and land.
and nationalized key industries have struck a chord with a generation of Africans weary of Western-backed puppet regimes and the hollow promises of liberal democracy. His assertion that democracy leads to a society of disorder, and his insistence that Burkina Faso is on a revolutionary path.
Let's break that down one more time. When he says that democracy leads to a society of confusion, it's true. Think about it. If you're in a group or even in your household, there has to be one leader who makes final decisions. You can have people give suggestions here and there, but you cannot say, let's vote democratically every time something needs to get done. That's just going to lead to confusion, and it's going to lead to a situation where the best decision is not taken because you're trying to please everybody. The reason we appoint a leader is because we know that this person knows best. If you don't trust their judgment, then they shouldn't be your leader, right? And in fact, you don't necessarily even appoint leaders. Leaders are born and they show you the way. You don't democratically vote. Leaders are born and they show you the way, and people naturally want to follow somebody that they can sense has that thing, that X factor. And Traore, as young as he is, has shown that. Firstly, to be brave enough to stage a coup d'etat and overthrow the government alone means you're willing to die for your country. And then to do it successfully and to continue to live the way he's living right now, where he sleeps in a different place every day. Because people within, the West, America is giving people money, bribing them to try to sell out, to find somebody who will sell out, right? And destroy this mission by killing its leader. First, it's a smear campaign to make sure that you don't die a martyr. So they've been smearing Ibrahim Traoré, making him seem like a dictator. Then there was the food poisoning incident where they tried to get rid of him. Thankfully, it didn't work. So this man's life, he lives his life on the run. Not necessarily on the run, but he has to constantly look over his shoulder. Because even the people closest to him, he cannot necessarily trust.
Have found an unexpected ally in Duma Boko, whose own critique of democracy's delays has raised eyebrows and sparked intense speculation. Has Traoré's unapologetic stance opened Boko's eyes to the limitations of the system he once championed? Or is Boko, a seasoned lawyer and opposition leader, simply articulating a truth that has long simmered beneath the surface of African political discourse? To understand the gravity of Boko's and Traoré's positions, we must first confront the uncomfortable reality of democracy in Africa, a system often lauded as the pinnacle of governance, but which, in practice, has served as a Trojan horse for Western interests.
Yeah.
Since the wave of independence movements in the 1960s, African nations have been coerced into adopting democratic frameworks modeled on Western liberal ideals, often under the guise of good governance. Yet, these systems have consistently failed to deliver the prosperity and sovereignty promised. Instead, they have entrenched a cycle of dependency, corruption, and underdevelopment, with African leaders beholden to foreign powers and multinational corporations. The democratic process, with its endless checks and balances, tenders, and consultations, has become a straitjacket for African progress. In countries like Botswana, hailed as a democratic success story, the reality is far more complex. Despite its relative stability and diamond wealth, Botswana grapples with high unemployment, stark inequality, and an over-reliance on a single commodity, diamonds, controlled by multinational giant De Beers.
De Beers, there you
The
go.
bureaucratic red tape that Boko so vividly described ensures that transformative policies are bogged down in years of deliberation, leaving citizens frustrated and leaders powerless to enact meaningful change. This is no accident. The West, through institutions like the International Monetary Fund, IMF, World Bank, and various NGOs, has weaponized democracy to maintain control over Africa's resources and political direction. By promoting a one-size-fits-all model of governance, they ensure that African leaders remain entangled in processes that prioritize foreign interests over national development.
There you go, Helen Ziller, prioritizing foreign investors. Always talking about the markets and how we need economic growth, and then there'll be a trickle-down effect. In other words, white people must get richer first, and then black people will eat the crumbs that fall from the table. Very insulting. As if we are not worthy of sovereignty over our own land, resources, and minerals. You must listen to Helen Ziller. Every time she's asked about what is your suggestion for redress, she always talks about investors, direct foreign investment, keeping the markets happy. Always prioritizing foreign investment, not how can we become more sovereign within South Africa. It's always about what people outside, keeping them happy in order for us to be successful and to thrive. It's a dead giveaway that she's there to protect the interests of white capital. It's not hard to tell.
Elections, often manipulated through funding and media influence, serve as a mechanism to install compliant leaders, puppets who parrot democratic rhetoric while siphoning wealth to Western capitals. The result is a continent rich in resources but poor in outcomes, where the democratic facade masks a neo-colonial reality. Consider the case of Nigeria, where democratic elections have produced leaders who oversee rampant corruption and economic stagnation, while multinational oil companies plunder the Niger Delta. Or Kenya, where electoral politics have fueled ethnic divisions and entrenched a political elite that serves foreign interests over the common good. In these and countless other examples, democracy has not been a tool for liberation, but a chain that binds Africa to its exploiters. The West's insistence on democracy as the only legitimate form of governance is not about empowering Africans, but about ensuring that the continent remains a pliable playground for global capitalism.
Pay attention to how the West fears.
In contrast, leaders
Pay attention to how the West fears socialism and communism. They always vilify these policies and always make it seem like you're stupid if you believe in socialism. And yet, white people got to where they are today because of socialism and communism. They hide it and call it democracy. It's not democracy. What they're doing is sharing the wealth amongst themselves as white people to keep themselves as the elites and use slave labor, black slave labor. That's what they did. And as soon as black people want to do the same and prioritize blacks and put black people first, oh no, it's discrimination, oh, it's communism, oh no, it's socialism, it won't work, it's going to collapse. Right? So now we must listen to the West tell us how we must live our lives.
Like Paul Kagame of Rwanda and Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso have demonstrated that decisive, revolutionary governance can yield tangible results, even in the face of Western criticism. Kagame, often labelled an authoritarian by Western media, has transformed Rwanda from a post-genocide wasteland into one of Africa's most dynamic economies. Since taking power in 2000, Kagame has overseen annual GDP growth averaging 7 to 8%, reduced poverty rates from 57% in 2005 to 38% in 2017, and positioned Rwanda as a hub for technology and innovation. His government's investments in healthcare, education, and infrastructure, such as the Kigali Innovation City, have made Rwanda a model of development, all while maintaining strict control over political dissent. Kagame's approach, which prioritizes action over endless debate, has allowed Rwanda to bypass the bureaucratic inertia that Boko laments. By centralizing power and streamlining decision-making, Kagame has implemented policies with remarkable speed, from universal healthcare coverage to ambitious renewable energy projects. While critics...
Sure, gents. I just wanted to share a little bit of this with you just to help you understand the game and what's really going on in this world. Don't get too carried away with what Western media is trying to poison you with when they tell you that dictators are evil and, you know, all these little good guy versus bad guy narratives that they love spewing. At the end of the day, Ibrahim Traoré is the template. What he's doing right now in Burkina Faso is the template for all Africans to follow. And I hope we are waking up and opening our eyes. And I hope you're doing your own personal research to find out more about what he's doing in Burkina Faso. It's amazing. It's really incredible. You know, making his own currency based on the gold standard because they've got gold that they mine, that they own, and they've nationalized. When we talk about nationalization, we're treated as if we have dictators in the country. You know, that are people must get hit with sanctions because we're talking about nationalization. But how else can you take your people out of poverty? White people have been doing it for centuries. But as soon as black people want to do it for their people, it's villainized. Why? Because the West fears us rising up out of these neo-colonial shackles. And hence, that's exactly why we have to do it. But anyway, gents, I just wanted to share this with you. Hopefully it has taught you something, given you some inspiration, and hopefully you'll continue to conduct your own research and learn more about this great leader that is Ibrahim Traoré and what he's doing in Burkina Faso. Because I feel even if they do assassinate him, he started something, right? He's ignited this movement of freeing ourselves from the shackles of neocolonialism And I know that the momentum that he has started will carry over. When Muammar Gaddafi was assassinated, it took us a long time to recover from that. But now we have another revolutionary leader that is showing us the template. And this is the template we need to follow. We need to kick white colonialists and white colonial influence out of our countries. And we need to control our resources, our assets, our minerals. Don't listen to white people when they tell you about the Bantu migration. There's no such thing. We are Southern Africans. We come from the region. We've always been there since 200 AD. Don't let them come with another narrative to say that we are visitors in South Africa. No. Right? We've got Khoisan blood in us genetically. So we are tied to South Africa. It is our land. It is our place. And we're not going to be told otherwise by white people who wants to revise our history to make us seem like we are visitors in our own land. Don't allow that narrative. Anyway, Majid, second half.